Everybody and I had given my thoughts on SEC Media Days, but now we're going to jump into another conference that had their Media Days last week. The new look Big 12. We talk about the new look SEC, the new look Big 12. And joining me is a guy that covers this conference like nobody else, Josh Neighbors. You can check him out on the Big 12 Watch. And also, he's over in Arkansas as producer on air on 103.7 The Buzz. And Josh, appreciate you coming on.
It's a pleasure to be back with you. I'm excited to talk some Big 12 football. We're getting close.
Yeah, I think we've done this a couple of years now, so I always know, and you may know, it's okay. Phillip hits me up. We're getting close to football season because we usually do a Big 12 preview,
right?
Every year. It's really interesting. It's obviously this week SEC is taking center stage, but then last week with the Big 12 being in Vegas, we joked off air. They're pretty much taking over the Pac-12's old territory.
Yeah, it's kind of, I guess, with those new additions, it's kind of good to be out that way. And also it's kind of a reminder of like who won the war, you know what I mean? Who ended up winning that kind of entire spat. So, and Brett Yormark wants to take the show on the road a bit. I mean, for media members, I think we all kind of wish it was a bit more centralized. It was nice for the folks out West though. And I think there's some resentment for some of the fan bases. They didn't ultimately want to be in the Big 12, but now they are. So I think it was, a little bit of an olive branch as well by having it out there.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of programs in that whole situation, like, well, we don't want to leave where we're at, but to survive, right, we have to move somewhere. And there's an alternate timeline here where the Big 12 could have been where the Pac-12 is now. Where the Pac-12, because all them years ago where they were trying to get Oklahoma and Texas.
Yeah.
So this could be a completely different scenario. But credit to the people at the Big 12 and Brett Yormark for putting all this together. And I think I agree with them. I think they are the third best conference. What's your thoughts just on the league overall?
Yeah, I think it's honestly like they got a bit lucky with losing their schools first. It kind of allowed them to assess things. And I remember seeing the Alliance, the ACC, and the Big Ten, and the Pac-12. Yeah, the Alliance. What a joke that was.
Yeah. How long did that last? About 5 minutes. And then
it was nothing. Everybody's like, is it on paper? It was like, it was a gentleman's agreement. Like, oh, okay, I'm sure this will go perfectly. So, it was good for the Big 12. It's great for them to be where they're at now. I mean, just a day above ground is good. And now they're trying to get, move forward and figure out where they can go from here. And I think that's why Brett Yormark is, he's the perfect leader for them. Like, he's not perfect, but he's not a college sports guy. And you mix that in with, a business background, not a college sports guy. And then everything he does, a lot of what he does has to be approved by like the board of directors, board of trustees. Those are college folks, right? Mm-hmm. So there's this good marriage of, hey, a business-minded person for a conference that needs to be forward-thinking. And you add in the people who approve decisions being college folks. I think it ends up being a good mixture for you.
And of course, was it last year? We talked about it, adding BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, UCF. Got a Central Florida question toward the end of this conversation. But then, of course, you go this year, Arizona State, Colorado, Utah, which I will just say this, as I've been watching college football. I'm 37, so I've been watching it for a good bit. Mm-hmm. Seeing Colorado in the Big 12 is, I feel, okay, here's the normal. Can y'all
deja vu?
Can y'all get Nebraska back? And then we can just get that rivalry going again. But when you look at just the additions, obviously, Colorado is going to take a lot of the headlines because of Deion Sanders, his sons, everything about that. But what do you see with the other three? What they add to the conference?
It's funny, Arizona State. I forget the kid's name. They got playing quarterback for them this year. But the other three quarterbacks, it's a pretty good argument. Like those are three best quarterbacks, maybe the three best quarterbacks in the league. With Shedeur Sanders, I think Noah Fafita is the best. I really do. I think that kid is absolutely unbelievable. And, for his size and how young he is and how well he played. And then, you got Cam Rising, who's back for his, 27th year of college football.
Yeah.
He's 25 now. So, you've got these three interesting quarterbacks. And you think about like the best programs, the Big 12, before you add on those schools, I think Oklahoma State to me would be the best one because of what Mike Gundy's built there. And then you add Utah. I was comparing the resumes. He and Kyle Whittingham have essentially identical resumes. It really is funny to look at, the wins, the losses, the conference championships, the number of 10-win seasons. They really are very, very close in that manner. And I think that's why it's so fascinating because I mean, Utah comes in and they should be the favorite. And that's the fan base that will give you the most pushback because look, they came to the Pac-12 a bit later on and they made it the Pac-12, right? Whatever it was, and they came in. And they finally hit their stride. I mean, they won back-to-back Pac-12 championships. They didn't last year, but they, the couple years ago, whenever it was the first one, they think they beat Oregon twice in that season. They followed that up in a season where they won it again. They beat USC twice. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they were beating traditional powers in that league. And so if you're hitting your stride, why would you want to leave? I understand, why they wouldn't want to, but they're in great shape. It's a really good program. They continue to build. And I know they had to name their coach in waiting. I mean, I really don't know much how longer Kyle Whittingham has, but I think ASU should end up being Arizona State should end up being pretty good, but like the other three are really interesting right now this season for different reasons. Arizona State just not very interesting this year because I think they've got a huge roster problem. But the other three schools super fascinating, and I would be surprised if Colorado won the league. Would not be shocked if Arizona won the league, and obviously Utah is the betting favorite in most shops. So interesting with those three.
You talk about Kyle Whittingham. I think he has been the head coach at Utah for so long. We forget about who was the head coach before him.
Yeah.
Which was Urban Meyer.
Yeah, Urban Meyer, right. And I mean, the modern version of Utah football is Kyle Whittingham. I mean, it really is. And it's been 16 years. It's like how people forget. I think Gundy came after Les Miles at Oklahoma State. I don't know if there's somebody else in between.
He did.
But like, that's kind of funny. And now those two guys, right before these two guys have had such great careers in those places.
Yeah, two guys that went on to win national championships at where they went to after those schools. So they're all what they did on the field all the time. We ain't gonna get into it, but the Les Miles stuff off the field. Well, Urban's got some skeletons
off the field stuff too. Both of them, right? I mean, pretty funny how that worked out. Yeah.
Well, I was going with the more worse side of it. I mean, than Urban. I mean, Urban just he coaches somewhere about 5 years. It starts going bad, and he gets sick, and then he has to retire. But that's another conversation for another time. So you look at the conference. A lot of teams that have had success here, in the Big 12, teams coming in the ones that are still there. But obviously, losing Oklahoma, Texas, you lose two big brands. So when you look at the conference now, who is the big brand? Because we always talk about, because even with the ACC, so you look at Florida State, Clemson as the brands. We know what the other Big 12, Big 10 in the SEC, but Big 12, who's the big brand?
I mean, you could argue BYU is because the church attachment. I think there's something and like they've had. I think they had a national championship. I forget what year it was, and then obviously they've had Heisman Trophy winning quarterbacks. So I mean, they're a brand in some ways, but just the quality is not there right now. I would say it's Oklahoma State. I would say Oklahoma State's got a pretty good case. K-State, I think, has got a good case as well. Utah, but like that's the thing about this league now is like it's just weird mixture of schools. I mean, because like these schools have these seasons. I mean, Baylor's had, I always mention this. Baylor's had 3 separate 10-win seasons under 3 different coaches in the last 15 years. Matt Rule's won 10 plus there. They had Art Briles win 10 plus there. They had Dave Aranda win 10 plus there. So, I mean, you can go to Baylor and win with what they've got, in TCU, obviously, with what Gary did, really strong brand. And then Sonny Dykes shows up and, oh my God, they're playing for a national championship. So, I mean, it kind of rotates, but like I would say Mike Gundy's consistency, I think, has earned Oklahoma State, a brand, being probably the best brand. And Utah, I think, with Kyle Whittingham, what they've done is, with their emergence, I'd say it's Utah and Oklahoma State. I think it needs, and then BYU, obviously, for other reasons.
Yeah, if we're talking basketball, that was an easy question. It would have been Kansas,
right?
But
KU, yeah.
But which better football than
oh my God! I mean, yeah, what Lance has done there is phenomenal.
Yeah, so I will say about that. Football brand, yes. Basketball, which it was KU. Kansas before Oklahoma.
Right. It's KU. It's always going to be KU. It's KU.
Yeah. So, history though with what Arizona has done in the past, and Kansas
for
basketball
for sure. And I mean, Baylor's won a championship, recently as well too. But when it comes to you can't beat Allen Fieldhouse and the Jayhawks when it comes to hoops.
So we talked about the new teams. Okay, so we got to talk Colorado. It's just it's
Yeah.
Deion Sanders, everything about it. But obviously, he brings the circus, all the attention, everything with him. Shadur Sanders, Silo Sanders, Travis Hunter. But overall, look at this team. They've had to rebuild their offensive line. Defense was straight horrible last year. Only won 4 games. What do you see the ceiling of Colorado in the Big 12 this season?
I it's really hard to say because the issue with Colorado is that there were some encouraging signs last year, but the way that Deion's treated roster building is just I don't know how you sustain that. Like you look at Kansas, right? Kansas built their roster up and they started building depth and like meaningful depth. Like so when Jalen Daniels goes down, Jason Bean's there. And even to the point where Cole Ballard was playing quarterback third string last year and they were in games and they were playing, Texas Tech went to a bowl game. They barely lost to them. K-State, obviously we know they had a nice season. They barely lost to them. Like that's, if I told you Kansas with a third string quarterback, you're like, it doesn't matter who the opponent is. You're probably like, it's probably a 30-point loss, right? Typically speaking, but they kept building that roster up to the point where that was not the case anymore. And they got good running backs. They've got multiple good wide receivers. And so for Colorado, like they've kind of got the star player problem where it's like, okay, that's great in September. Everybody's fresh and feeling good. And as soon as you start getting dinged to get knocked, it's going to be a huge problem, especially if your defense is a problem from the start. Like if teams can just show up and just run the ball on you, and teams could show up and do whatever they wanted to Colorado, to be honest, last year. Teams can just show up and do that to you, you're cooked. There's no other way to put it. You're cooked. And I did not like what they did with the coordinator situation. Sean Lewis's offense is a strong one. It's a good one. I don't know why. Maybe because you want your son to have an NFL, type coordinator there, but the big problem for Shador is he holds the ball too long and runs into sacks. He's not getting much help, but like he still does that stuff. So
he's not helping his cause.
Right. He's not helping his cause. Yeah. Now he actually took pretty good care of the ball. Last year, took pretty good care of the ball, but he's got to work on that stuff. And Travis Hunter, like they have to put him on a snap count. I mean, he cannot play that. He cannot play as many snaps as he did last year. Just he's a really impressive player. He might be, you could argue he's the most talented player in the country, but you cannot have a guy at that size playing that many snaps both ways. And so I'm looking to see where they build the depth this year. Did they build the depth at all? Is Deion in this for the long run? Or, because like 4-8, honestly, after what they did the previous years is progress, but I don't know of how everything else around the program signals a positive movement, if that makes sense. Like they did improve upon what they were, but what signals that they're building, I don't know.
And you always see stuff with Deion. Is he going to leave at some point, Colorado? If they get some success, he gets a call from maybe a school in Texas or something. Or, well, I don't think Florida State's going to come up anytime soon, but you know what I mean? Like there's always a conversation. I wonder if he does stick around at Colorado, if he is there for the long haul, how his roster building, maybe it'll change and the way he does coaches when his sons are no longer there. I mean,
right.
How his team will look then.
I think only Deion knows Deion's plan. I think he's got a plan. It just seems to be oriented that way. I don't know what that plan is though. And I don't know if he's thought about all the steps in getting, like it feels a little bit LeVar Ballish, but like LeVar Ball, like at least got his kid. Like, I mean, like Lonzo's a really good basketball player and it sucks that he's injured. And, I wish we could see him play more, but like he had two top picks for kids. I mean, 2 for 3 is pretty damn good. And then you had, the third one, LiAngelo. I mean, he had a cup of coffee and, played in Europe, whatnot. So like 3 professional basketball players, kids, pretty good. 2 of them being top picks, pretty good. That feels like kind of what Deion Sanders is doing. I just don't know if he has thought out all the steps to get from point A to point B.
Yeah, I've wondered that. Is his priority, which is tough. I mean, he is a father. I mean,
Yeah.
And your top priority to your kids. But also at the same time, is to get his sons to the NFL or to make Colorado good. You want to do both, but which one's the top priority? And you talk about LeVar Ball. I'll go admit this. I admit this sometimes. I am a Laker fan. I was Kobe Bryant, reasons why I'm not LeBron. I always got to clarify that.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that the ball situation would have stayed with the Lakers a little bit longer with LeBron. I just wanted one time, Josh, to see a clash between LeVar Ball and LeBron James. That was all I was wanting for entertainment. But
Yeah, it would have been great. And also, like, it's funny because, like, as much as LeVar talked, Lonzo is the most like, yeah, I pass, I play good defense. It's like his play is not brash and loud. LaMelo's is, but like that was always the funny part of it to me. It was just like, it was, and that's the thing about Shador. Shador is not, you watch him play, Philip, like he's not have a great arm. And actually that's just why I think it's why as an NFL prospect, like people like him, is kind of Jared Goff-ish. Jared Goff is much better at staying in the pocket, but like not the best arm, but like is the distribution is there. He can spray it all over the place, not going to be out there the fastest, but like he knows he can spray it all over the place. And so, it's not I don't see a ton of flash with Shador Sanders. I see some quality and some potential, but like I don't see the flash. He's not his dad, I think, when it comes to like the flashiness and how good he is.
I done cracked the code on Dion's roster. He is purposely having a bad offensive line to train his son. So when he gets to the NFL, when he fights behind a bad offensive line.
I mean, I'm not sure he could ever simulate what that offensive line's doing to him. Good night, they're getting him killed. I mean, it's been terrible.
Any Colorado people watching or listening, I'm joking, of course. I know
they'll tell you the line's a lot better. It's like, all right, I'll believe it when I say it. Well, it couldn't be worse. So I'll believe it when I see it.
That will be the one time me doing this I trend, and it's going to be something taken completely out of context. Just that would be the one time. Now we got this is you answered this question earlier about the favorites. Looking at Utah, Oklahoma State. Just looking at Utah, you mentioned Cam Rising coming back for 25. He's older than a lot of NFL quarterbacks. That's just the truth with him. But we've seen when he is healthy. With what Kyle Whittingham has run his program, this team is really good.
Mm-hmm.
And they return a lot of starters on defense.
Mm-hmm.
They've got some good skill players around him. What's the main thing you like about Utah?
I like that they're returning a lot of guys. They're old and they're good, and they're well coached. They don't hurt themselves. Now last year, obviously, like they need Cam Rising bad. Like they did not have good enough depth at quarterback last year. And I know they had the kid, I forget the kid's name. It was not Bryson Barnes. I think it was Nate Jackson, I want to say, who's a pretty high recruit. So. And just it didn't really work out. But like, it's kind of one of those situations where Rising goes down, they're screwed because you're just so used to having a guy who's like that. He's just like, he's the heart and soul of the team. And he's old and you can trust on him. You can depend him. And so like, that's what I like. My question though is that was a significant knee injury, like a really significant injury that he suffered. And I remember last year when they were doing the whole thing for the Florida game where it's like, oh, he might play. And I'm like, there's not a freaking chance that this dude's going to play. Mm-hmm. And they kept it up and it was like, no, this was as bad as we thought. And, I think they were concerned maybe about re-injury and just maybe his confidence and whatnot. But like it's been, I mean, his last college football game was January 1st, 2023, right? That'd be the Rose Bowl against Penn State. Mm-hmm. It's a long time ago. We're in July. It's gonna be late August 2024. And that's kind of the thing about a lot of Big 12 quarterbacks is like Jalen Daniels, he's great, man. When he plays, he's great, but like he's played 12 games in the last 2 seasons. So that is the question. Would I be shocked if he comes back and looks great? No, not at all. Because he's old. He's right, he's right back to it. He knows what he's doing. But like you have to wonder: is there the confidence thing with the knee? Does he feel great all the way? What's it look like? He hasn't played in a long time, so I've just got some questions about that. But everything else, man, they are a machine. They are. That's what they are now. They are a machine.
But Kansas has something in their arsenal that Utah doesn't. They have behind him. They have on their roster from last year. They had the number 1 draft pick in the UFL draft, in Jason.
They do. I saw that today. I was like, is that number 1? Oh my God, Jason! Good for him, man.
Memphis Showboat. So
I love that. Dude, he was fast too, man. That guy could fly.
Oklahoma State. And they have a lot of people returning back. Of course, I know they've been in the headlines for reasons they would not want to be. Which
just foot and mouth. And I got crushed for talking about. I just want to say something else. Can I? Do you mind if I?
Oh yeah, the
So,
floor is yours. The
so
floor is
I
yours.
so I was like, I'm not sure what Mike Gundy's doing, and people were like, because I was like, look, like Mike Gundy and I, we don't agree on a whole lot of stuff, which is totally fine. It doesn't mean like I think I ranked him as the number one coach in the league, and I'm like, you bring Ollie Gordon to media days, so like ostensibly he is there to kind of answer for his sins, right? Why does Mike Gundy feel the need to be like, well, your BAC's tied to your body weight? And it's like, can't you just be like, hey, look, we're not spending him. We're going to handle the punishment internally. We'll take care of that. Ollie's here to answer your questions about it. We hope, please be fair to him. This young man is here to face the music, but please do it in a fair way. And I'm here to talk about the rest of the team as well, in addition to Ollie. That's all he had to do. He didn't have to litigate body weight and BAC and why those are tied together and whatnot. And he just had to do it. Maybe it was take the heat off Ollie, but it doesn't make sense because nobody was talking about Ollie being there to apologize. They were all talking about Mike Gundy's comments. So it's like, it just didn't make any sense to me. It made no sense at all about why he was there or why he was there saying that, Mike Gundy.
We always wish coaches wouldn't use coach speak, but that was the one time where you needed a coach to be 100% coach speech.
Yeah. I just don't get it. It made no sense, but I love Mike Gundy.
It's on brand with him.
It is so on brand. It is like the most Mike Gundy thing ever.
I mean, he has made a career.
He's like, who amongst us is not? And it's like, yeah, but you're excusing it now. Like, don't excuse it. Also, that doesn't matter. The kid's underage too, so it's not actually legal. Like, whether you should be allowed to drink at the age of 20 is not what we're talking about here. It's illegal to drink at all, and it's especially illegal to drink while driving. So, like, I don't know why we're standing up for him.
Hey, he's a man. Insert age.
He's a lot older than 40 now, right?
That quote will always
live on.
Be there for him. But the team, we mentioned Ollie Gordon coming back, Doak Walker award winner. Not often we see this where you have an award winner of like him coming back, but he's back. 21 touchdowns last year. Mm-hmm. Quarterback coming back, Alan Bowman. They've got 8 returners on defense. Nick Martin was great last year. 140 tackles, 16 TFLs, 6 sacks. So kind of the same question I said with Utah. What do you like about this Oklahoma State team?
Yeah, I mean, if they put Colin Oliver in the right spot, like he was a little down last year. They need to make sure he's rushing the passer and getting after it. And their defense is good, not great. But like if they get a little bit better, I mean, they're going to be, right there at that 9-10 win threshold again. Brendan Presley's back also too on offense when they bring back some receivers. My issue is this. They can do better at Alan Bowman. They could have done, they can do much better than that. They could have done better than that last year when Spencer Sanders asked to come back and Mike Gundy said no. And they clearly needed him because they had 3 quarterbacks. They had the starter, the mid reliever, and the closer last year in their first few games. And that resulted in them getting nuked by South Alabama at home. And also they lost to Iowa State and then they picked a starter at that point, but like they barely got by Arizona State. So Spencer goes and sits on Ole Miss's bench and they rotate quarterbacks for a month. And the story goes that Spencer called and wanted back on, and Mike Gundy said during bowl practices the previous season they'd already moved on. I don't get it. It does not make sense. On the other side of Mike Gundy, the fact that he got 10 wins out of this team last year, unbelievable. Because Alan Bowman's not very good. He had one really strong game against Oklahoma. But here's the thing: like, do guys get better as they get older? Yes. There's a certain point though where we're at 26, 27, 28. And I know Cam Rising's at that point too, but like Cam Rising's really accomplished. Alan Bowman is not super, super accomplished and didn't take great care of football last year either. And it's like, look, if I want to take this team to the next level, they can go and find a better quarterback. I know he was on the team. It's like, hey, Trent Dilfer is a Super Bowl winning quarterback. No, Trent Dilfer was on the team that won the Super Bowl. He was not the Super.
He will admit that. He will admit it too when he talks
Peyton Manning, second Super Bowl, he was on the Broncos. He was not quarterbacking them to a Super Bowl. That's not what really occurred there. And so that's my concern. It's like, look, all the other contenders in the league, I'd rather have their quarter. We've barely seen Avery Johnson play. I'd much rather have him than Alan Bowman. Cam Rising, even though with the injury, I'd still rather have Cam Rising. FPI gave KU the best chance to win the league. I would much rather have Jalen Daniels, even with the injuries. Like, I mean, I didn't have him in my top 10 quarterbacks in the league. I do not think he is one of them. I I think that's what will ultimately hurt them is Alan Bowman, because it's not like it's, well, you can trust him to take care of the football. You actually can't.
I saw that.
He had a bunch of turnovers last year. So yeah, it's the one area where I'm concerned. Everything else though, like a good team got older. That sounds good to me. Love that. I love that. And they have a great coach. Love that. They'll be good. I just don't know how good.
What was it? 15-14, his touchdown
Yeah.
interception ratio. Yeah,
Not
good.
Yeah. Not good.
In college football, when you throw that many interceptions, it means you threw more interceptions than you had games. You don't want that.
Don't want that. And here's the thing, like Brady Cook did that a couple years ago where I think it was 2 years ago, where it was like 10-7 or 10-9 or whatever it was, and then had the great year last year. It doesn't feel like where Alan Bowman's headed. And maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong, but like it doesn't really feel like that's where Alan Bowman's headed for the big season at 26, where however old he is.
All right, so we're going 25, a little bit longer. I got 2 more questions for you if you're
Sure.
up for it. So we talk quarterbacks, and I'm going to bring up, because I'm in the state of Alabama. Coach, we're all familiar here. Gus Malzahn, Central Florida, 6-7 last year. They bring in KJ Jefferson from Arkansas, where you are at now. And Gus said last week, and I think on the surface, as people see this comment that don't really know Gus's track record, they're like, what are you talking about? But it's really true that KJ Jefferson is the closest thing he's had to Cam Newton since Cam Newton, which is 100% true. There's no lie in that.
Yes.
When you look at KJ Jefferson and how he matches up with Gus Malzahn's offense, how good can you see UCF being this year? And they've got some guys returning there. RJ Harvey coming back, a running back, Kobe Hudson, another former Auburn player, Xavier Townsend. They've got some weapons offensively.
Yeah.
So what do you think this team can be?
So the KJ piece of it's really interesting, because what happened last year at Arkansas was an out and out disaster.
Mm-hmm.
And that was not all his fault. Part of it was, part of it's on him. He's the quarterback, but they could not run the ball. They could not block. The running backs couldn't block anybody. The receivers could not get open. The actual tight end was like the only position where they produced anything. And those guys kept getting injured. And their scheme sucked in the beginning of the year. And then they went to the Bryles offense. And like, to be honest, if I had to pick a quarterback to run the Bryles offense, he's not really the guy I'd pick. Like it's not really he's not like a run and shoot guy. You think about like, the Hendon Hookers of the world. Like Hooker is he can run, but like he is a gangly quarterback who can get it out there, throw it deep, like that type of guy. You can get it out to the wide receivers in the end. KJ can throw it deep, but the one thing about Cam that reminds me of Cam is they both have like really low release points. So it looks like they're spiking the football sometimes. It's like a baseball player. It's like you're trying to bury that pitch too low, man. You need to get a little more air under it. And so I'm curious as to where KJ's head is at. Could a meeting, a partnership with Gus completely revitalize him? Yes, it could. And I hope it does. But I'm also wondering too, like, is there a part of KJ that is frustrated and upset and like trying to find the form where it was, I feel so far away from the guy I was in 2022. And, whenever I was a first team All SEC quarterback, like, is there a part of him that feels far away from that he might be frustrated trying to get that back? I don't know where his head's at. And I think it's going to be interesting to see, because I like Gus a lot. I don't know. I actually feel like I don't know much about him as like how he relates to his players. You know what I mean? Like he's just not a super, like you don't see him chatting people up all the time on the sideline. I feel like you can correct me if I'm wrong, because you've seen him coach, a lot more than I have. But like, I don't know. I'm kind of really interested to see how this partnership works, because if I want a guy to distribute the football to all these weapons, he's not my first pick.
Yeah. I think Gus, when he was at Auburn, I think the players liked him. I think he was a liked guy. I mean, which they went completely different with Harsin the next year when trust me, there were people were saying, can we
right.
There was Auburn people like, can we get Gus back?
Right.
After everything.
They should never fired him, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was certain people at Auburn wanted to do that, but got him to Hugh Freeze. So I guess hopefully that'll work out.
Right? We'll see.
But I think when Gus I think the biggest problem Gus had at Auburn after Cam and after Nick Marshall, he tried to always have like a pocket passer. And I know John Rice Plumlee was the quarterback last year. Good runner, but we all know he's
horrific passer.
Yeah, he's just not
Just a
developed.
horrific. I mean, really bad.
He got drafted in the UFL draft on Wednesday too, by the way. I
Good
forget
athlete. Really good. I mean, amazing athlete. But you never watched him.
The Bob Stoops coach team got him. That's the one that got him.
They'll see if they can turn him into a good passer because I'm sure they're probably going to run the air raid.
Yeah, more likely. But yeah, I think so. I think Gus, people like him. So I mean, that's a good step. And Cam went back to Auburn when Gus was there a few times. So obviously, which we know Cam is a different individual at times. Yeah. But still, he came back. So we'll see. And I get my final question. We're gonna go SEC, Arkansas. As I said, you're on the radio there in Arkansas. We're doing this on Wednesday, everybody. So on Thursday, and you're not hearing this to Friday, but on Thursday is when Arkansas hits the podium with a SEC Media Day. Just what is the big question this year with Arkansas? Because it seems like Sam Pittman is right there on the edge when it comes to hot seat.
They should have fired him. Yeah. So there's which one do you want? I can give you both of these. There's the question that people are asking, and there's the question that I'm asking, and they're different questions. And I'm not sure how many Arkansas people will hear this. And I actually don't say this on the radio because it would get me killed. But my big question is, how serious is Arkansas about football? Because you see what they did with basketball, bringing in John Calipari, right? That is a serious move. And they've always been a serious basketball program. It's a national champion. They won one with Nolan in 96, whenever it was, and they went back to one the next year. And Eric Musselman's serious coach. John Calipari, obviously serious coach, serious talent level. Even Musselman had 3 guys drafted in the first round of his second to last team here. Football, they are in a conference where a coach got fired for 70. However much, what was it? What the figure for Jimbo was? What was it? 60 some, 70 some?
Yeah. Endless amount of money.
So that's what teams in your league are willing to pay to have a coach not coach for their program. You wouldn't pay 12 to get Pittman out. Because here's the thing, Phillip, if the recruiting was decent, it'd be like, well, you got to keep, you got a great class coming in. No, last year, 2 of their 4 best recruits in the state went to Missouri. And this year, they've got the state championship winning team over here in Little Rock. They had 2 commitments the other day. One's going to Oklahoma, one's going to Kansas State. So he's not recruiting particularly well. And last year, he mismanaged 4th downs constantly. And they're still letting him stay around. It's like, well, you know what if we give you the Warm and Fuzzies fan base and bring back Bobby Petrino? This is going to end with Bobby Petrino as, I'm not sure if you've seen their schedule. It is.
Well, I was about to ask that question. How many games in until Bobby Petrino's named interim head coach?
Yeah, I mean, this is the plan, right? It's pretty plain. What they're doing is they're going to be like, we'll hang on to Pittman so we don't have to eat as much money. We'll give you Bobby midway through the season. Maybe you catch a nice win, surprise somebody, make you feel all warm and fuzzy back inside like Bobby Petrino used to make you feel. And then at the end of the year, and look, maybe Bobby turns it around and it look good and he becomes the head coach. I doubt it. And most likely at the end of the year, you're searching for somebody else, and that's probably where you're going to be at. And a lot of fans are wondering, what's the Petrino offense going to look like and how good's the new quarterback, Taylor Green? Mine is, how serious is this program? Big picture. Because they are not particularly – I think letting Sam Pittman continue to coach was not a serious move because everybody in this league is spending a ton of money. And you're spending a lot of money on basketball, but why? But we're next to Texas. This is football state. Why aren't you spending the money on football?
Yeah, and this may get me some trouble. Anybody from Arkansas hears me say this, if they're checking this out, it feels like maybe from just what I've seen, and I talked to other people that cover Arkansas, maybe Arkansas has maybe turned into what Kentucky used to be for this year. Everybody's going to just be looking for, okay, football season's not going well. Let's just look ahead to basketball season. It
might be a bit of that. Now, I think Petrino changes that a little bit. And here's the other side of this, though. I think they've got 2 good coordinators. Like Travis Williams had a really good year. I mean, that offense was not good. And I always think you have to look at defenses in context of their offense, right? Was the offense putting the defense in a lot of good spots? No. And for most of the year, the defense actually held up pretty well. At the end, they did not. But I think they've got a good defensive coordinator, a good young defensive coordinator, and they've got obviously a guy who knows how to scheme up offense. It's just like I don't know if the head coach knows what he's doing, at all. And it seems like he's gotten worse at the in game stuff, and he's not really recruiting at a really good level. He pulled them out of the Chad Morris hole, and it seems like thank you, Sam. Should have been the message last year. We got to keep accelerating this, moving it on. They didn't do that. Also, something that bothers me is people here for the life of them cannot seem to understand why Missouri beats them, and it confuses the heck out of me. And I'm a Missouri alum, so I mean, people be like biased, whatever, but like we have two major American cities on either side of the state. Kansas City's 2 hours away one way, St. Louis 2 hours away the other way, and they poured a ton of money into the program because I'm telling you, kids aren't going to school there because they like the nerdy coach Eli Drinkwitz, think he's awesome. No, they're dropping the bag for him, but also they're really coaching him up pretty well too. Their two losses last year were to the Heisman Trophy winner, and they lost by 6 to Georgia on the road because Brady Cook threw a pick at the end of the game. They had the ball, the chance to win that game. And they went to Arkansas last year, and they said, we're taking your two best recruits, and we're going to hand you a 40-point ass whipping. And for some reason, people are like, I just don't know why we can't beat them. It's like, what do we? It's not rocket science, people. They're investing in the program. They're putting money into the roster. They're developing players. And, if you're not going to be one of those top programs, like Mississippi State, there's a reason they have Jeff Lebby because he does something different with that offense and the air raid. That's why they had Mike Leach before. Mm-hmm. You have to invest a ton of money and get a couple 5 stars, or you have to do something a lot different and develop your players. And so like Mark Stoops does at Kentucky, that's the kind of stuff you have to do. And I think the problem is Sam Pittman's teams, they really don't have much of an identity. When I tell you right now, Phillip, let's play Arkansas football, what does that actually mean to you? Like, does that mean something? No, it doesn't really mean anything. What is Arkansas football right now?
Yeah, seem like they have an identity crisis on what and maybe they're just too kind of stuck in what, like you said, what was Arkansas football? What was the past? Because I still remember when Auburn first went to the spread. I mean, when Gus, back to Gus.
Yeah.
When Gene
Speaking of Arkansas, Gus Malzahn, right?
Yeah. Okay, so we've gone way over what I said. This is my last question.
No, you can ask what you want. I got time.
If UCF has a really good year, you probably know where I'm going with this.
I know where you're going. They wanted it last year.
Yeah. And Arkansas does pull the trigger and fire Sam Pittman. I'm not going to ask you if Gus will become the next coach at Arkansas, but will his name get mentioned for the job?
It got mentioned last year. I mean, the story that folks said was not real, whatever, was that there was a group of boosters at Arkansas that said we'd pay the buyout for Pittman if you give us Gus Malzahn. And that was with UCF having a 6-7 season last year. Not first year in the Big 12, but like, you know what I mean? He'll always get brought up for that job because, he was in the SEC West, and obviously he was the best coach in that champ. Like, I don't view that as Gene Chiswick's championship. I really view it as Gus Malzahn's championship. And also you look at his other record. I mean, besides Hugh Freeze, like who has done better against Nick Saban? And are there times you were like, why are we doing the guy in motion fullback direct snap dive thing again? Like, why are we doing that? And I understand that Gus gets in his own way all the time, but the guy can recruit. And like you said, his players like him. My point was more like in a, we got to help KJ mentally type situation. But also I will say he's really good with quarterbacks who are not maybe like Nick Marshall, not especially talented. Right. And he elevated the hell out of him. So yeah, I would say like he'll always get brought up because he's got that Arkansas connection, and people here feel like there maybe needs to be some sort of Arkansas tie. And I really don't believe that at all. I mean, I think he can be from wherever and win wherever, as long as you understand how to go someplace and, accommodate the folks there, but he'll always get brought up. If they go 8-4 this year, he'll get brought up. I think people here have such an affinity for him, and he knows the state well, that they'll bring it up. But it sounds like he's really happy, and also I think his wife is super happy.
Well, man, Florida. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, Orlando sounds. It's like, honey, this is your last job, and you better keep this thing. We're getting paid pretty handsomely. We're in Orlando, and no offense to Auburn, Alabama, but Disney's a bit different, right? I mean, than Auburn is. So I think Gus is happy there. I think he'd consider it always. I think he would use it to get a raise, but I don't think he's going to go anywhere unless something that he can't turn down appears for him.
You are not telling me that Disney is better than Toomer's Corner, Josh. I mean, come on.
They're different kinds of rides. In my experience, I've been to both, and it's a different kind of ride.
Yeah, in the words of Gus Malzahn, no doubt.
No doubt.
Get ready. If that happened, get ready for no doubt. And he's solid. He's solid. I swear, Jarrett, when the year Jarrett Stidham was his second year when he really took a dip down, I remember that year. I think a quarterback, him or Bo Nix, could have thrown 5 interceptions. And somebody in the media could have asked Gus after the game, what do you think about such a quarterback? He's solid, no doubt.
He's solid. Don't worry about it. Yeah, he's good.
But, well, Josh, we went twice as long as we planned. This was fun, though. It's
always good to talk to you, Phillip.
I think we could probably keep going.
We could, yeah.
Absolutely. So many things to talk about. But if the listeners and viewers out there want to check it out, where can they find you?
The Big 12 Watch. It's on Crystal Ball College Football, part of the 365 Sports Network. David Smoke, Craig Smoke, Paul Catalina. They do a great job over there. Also, you guys can find me on Twitter at @JoshNeighbors_, at NWPod365. And look, 6 to 10 a.m., you can find me on Morning Mayhem, 103.7 The Buzz. If you like a variety show to get you going in the morning, listen to this. I thought I was coming to produce a sports radio show. That was not the case. It is a variety show. Talk about movies, music. National Hot Dog Day was today. I think we did more of that than we did any sports talk today. And we were at SEC Media Days on our show. So if you like a true variety show, check us out. We're on YouTube, 103.7 The Buzz app. Give it a try. It's fast paced. It'll keep you awake. It's a lot of fun. And you can listen anywhere you are, not just in Arkansas. So I encourage you all to check that out. 6, 10 a.m. Central every single weekday. And Phillip, it's a pleasure to join you today.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It was a whole lot of fun, and I hope we can do this again sometime.
Oh, anytime.